This is part 2 of our video about A-10 losses in the Operation Desert Storm. Watch part 1 if you missed it. In mid-February, A-10s were tasked with another assignment. They were being sent to attack the Medina division of the Iraqi Republican Guard, located some 80 miles behind the front lines and until that point, almost untouched by coalition attacks. Attacking targets so deep in enemy territory isn't something Warthog was originally meant to do, and most pilots were quite unhappy with this tasking, but they went on to do it nevertheless. On 15th of February, a pair of A-10s from 354th Tactical Fighter Wing launched in the afternoon and headed north to attack the Medina division. The leader was Captain Steve Phillis, and Lieutenant Rob Sweet was flying wing. Pilots from earlier flights reported plenty of targets and successful attacks, although the plane of Colonel Sawyer, 23rd Tactical Fighter Wing commander, was hit, probably by an SA-13 missile. He landed successfully despite the damage. Phillis and Sweet arrived to their assigned area and indeed spotted an abundance of targets. Phillis rolled in and dropped his CBUs, but faced plenty of ground fire. The pair then moved south along the road, where AAA seemed lighter. They saw a truck driving towards a vehicle park, and Phillis attacked with his gun but missed. The truck parked in the compound, and Phillis told Sweet to drop his CBUs. Sweet was successful and they observed secondaries. Phillis and Sweet then moved 5 miles away and tried to attack some tanks with their Mavericks. As it was late in the afternoon, they had trouble locking the tanks up due to lack of contrast. Instead, they made one strafing pass each. As Sweet was climbing to the right after his pass and releasing flares, he noticed the missile chasing him. He pulled the stick and the missile passed nearby without exploding. But the two pilots noticed smoke from the position of the launcher, and Phillis went for a strafing attack. He achieved hits, but on a tank next to the missile launcher. Phillis authorized Sweet to make one more pass before going home. Sweet was northeast of the target, and with the sun low on the horizon, he was probably easy to spot. As he was about to roll in, he felt a hit. Phillis called 2 missiles, but it was too late. Sweet saw extensive damage to his airplane and a number of warning lights going off in the cockpit. He was initially able to control the A-10 and he headed south. But then, the airplane started to roll and his stick had no effect on control surfaces. At about 6,500 feet, Sweet decided to eject. Captain Phillips immediately began to organize search and rescue. He reported having eyes on his wingman's parachute, and he contacted another A-10 flight and called them to the area to provide additional support. He then kept flying above the Iraqi division, dropping flares to draw attention away from his wingman. But Phyllis's A-10 was also hit by a missile, and he calmly reported over the radio, Enfield 37 is back as well. This was his last radio transmission. As he was heading south, he must have lost control of his airplane, which hit the ground. The wreck and the body were only found after the liberation of Kuwait. There was no attempt of an ejection. Lieutenant Sweet was luckier. He survived, but was soon captured and brought to Baghdad, and eventually released after the war. These losses put a stop on A-10 going deep behind enemy lines in the Kuwaiti theater of operations, although they still went scud hunting in western Iraq. On 19 February 1991, Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Fox of the 23rd Tactical Air Support Squadron took off in his OA-10 and headed towards the kill box Alpha Echo 5 near the tri-border intersection and just a few miles into Iraq. He was relieving another OA-10 on the forward air controller duty. OA-10 was not really different from the standard A-10, but was assigned a different designation because of its duties. Fox was briefed by the previous FAC about possible targets, and he then waited for fighters to arrive to his kill box so he could direct him. No fighters arrived. At 9 o'clock, as Fox was getting ready to climb and head back to the tanker, he felt a thump beneath his airplane. This was almost certainly another infrared-guided missile. The hydraulic gauges dropped down to 0 and Fox switched to manual reversion, but he was losing control of his A-10. At one point, he saw no more sky, only sand, and he knew it was time to eject. Fox was injured in the ejection, but he landed and started calling for help on his radio. But before anyone could come to his assistance, he was captured by a single Iraqi soldier and taken to Baghdad as well. Like the other surviving coalition pilots, he was released after the war. In the Operation Desert Storm, A-10s flew over 8,100 missions. 4 of them were shot down over enemy territory, as you could see in this video. Another 2 A-10s were damaged beyond repair during manual reversion landings, resulting in death of 1 pilot. 14 A-10s were damaged during Desert Storm. With 6 airframes lost, this gives the highest total number of aircraft casualties among coalition combat aircraft. But A-10s also flew the second highest number of sorties, with an average casualty rate per sortie of 0.0023. That puts it somewhere in the middle, significantly lower than, for example, Tornado GR1 with 0.0079. If you liked the video, be sure to press the like button. Thank you and keep watching Showtime 112.